Death or Prison. Brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. Let's join Laz Lopez and Elmo Golden in their conversation with Oswald Newbold II in the episode entitled The Power of Forgiveness.
Hello once again. Welcome to the podcast Death or Prison, brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. It's another beautiful day. If God be for you, who can be against you?
Amen.
So to my right, I want to introduce to you my brother from another mother, Elmo, Big Mo Golden. How you doing today, Mo?
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I'm happy to be here.
Sometimes we're too blessed to be stressed in the middle of this mess.
Right.
I got to tell you, but it's also a victorious day because I have a guest here, a wonderful guest, someone that is really a privilege and an honor to have. We have Oswald Newbold II.
How y'all doing?
How you doing today?
All right.
I'm doing fine. Good to be with you, brothers.
All right, all right. Well, this is Death or Prison. So as we jump in, Oswald, what was the worst moment of your life? Let's start there.
The worst moment of my life was when I heard the judge say on count 1 for armed burglary, I sentence you to life in prison.
Whoa.
On count 2, attempted first-degree murder with a firearm, I sentence you to another term of life imprisonment.
Wow.
Count 3, aggravated battery with a firearm, I sentence you to 15 years in prison with a 3-year minimum mandatory for the firearm. There's a firearm also on the attempted murder case. Therefore, I sentence you to life. The sentence is to run concurrent, but the mandatory is run consecutive. That was the worst moment when I just realized that I had been sentenced to life in prison.
Man, at that moment, you know, because I've been there, that thug life, we bought it. My culture is, that macho man.
Right.
All of a sudden, when I heard this, similar to what you heard, that's when my knees started to shake. It got a lump in my throat, and all that machoism was out the window.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough moment right then. But what could I do? They were fingerprinting me, and life had changed in the blink of an eye. My family was crying.
Right.
Everybody
Wow.
devastated. Nobody could believe it. It was my first time in trouble ever with the law, no juvenile, anything.
See, because that you usually don't have a situation like that, because usually escalates. We ourselves, like Big Mo. How many times you been into prison now, in and out?
I'm not telling you.
And you're not gonna say, okay.
Quite a few.
That's quite a few.
Quite a few.
That is another segment. But
Right.
but in your case, this is something that I'm sure your family is in shock.
Yes.
They weren't expecting anything like this. So take me from there. What happens then?
Basically, I go to the county jail and I'm frustrated. And I guess you could say I get there and I just start to reevaluate my life, going all the way back to how I get to this moment.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. I would say it goes all the way back to when I was young. I was born, my mother and father was in the 12th grade when my mom got pregnant. So they marched and graduated in June, and I was born in September. So I was born to 2 young parents. Another thing was my mom, of course, they was not married at the time. So my mom, having a child, she didn't want to be in her parents' house. So after she graduated, she moved on, and she moved in, low economic housing. Some people may call it the projects,
Right.
but that's where we ended up at. And I just saw a lot in that time as a youth. Even by the time I was 4 years old, I started kindergarten, but my mom didn't trust leaving me with anyone. So when I came from school, I had to let myself in. I was a latchkey child, as they call it. And she used to pin the door key in my pocket, and I had to let myself in. I couldn't look out the window. I couldn't answer the phone. Nobody was to know I was to be there by myself
yourself, yeah.
until she get home in a couple hours from then. So life, I had to grow up fast. And I think in some ways that's good, but some ways it also hurt me down the line in life.
And what neighborhood is that? That here or
Riviera Beach.
Riviera Beach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Riviera Beach.
The Raw.
It was called the Woods back then, but they call it the Raw now.
Yeah.
And I had a decent life. I would say I had a decent life. I knew my mother and father when I was young. And somewhere around the age of 6, I believe my parents got married. And we had a good life. Everything was good, you know. It was good in my eyes. Yeah, you know, you never know what the parents going through. But I knew my mother and father. They were married. As life progressed on, and we got into the 1980s, that's when things started to get a little different. I won't even say different yet because, okay, I should say this here. My dad, he used to design engines for fighter jets for Pratt & Whitney back in the day. So he was a pretty good bookworm. But then substance abuse came along.
Yeah.
So I know how it was to live in a house where the parents used substance. And by the time the crack cocaine era came in, I started to see my life changing. I didn't see it then, but life was changing. And I didn't know it then, but as life went on, that's when once I got older and really evaluated life, I realized that's when my anger issues started, going all the way back to then. And that played a part all the way up until I became, when I got sentenced to life. But it's a lot in between there. So that's all I could say on that.
Give me one of those in-betweens that I could say I could highlight that could have possibly be a life-changing moment that you took the route that you took.
That's one of them loaded questions. That's one of them loaded questions. So I guess I might as well just peel the onion right here, right?
Okay.
So we could get all the way to the good part. Or let's say it like this. As the 80s was going on, I started to see life changing. So I grew up fast. By the age of 15, I didn't like what was going on in my household. 15 years old, I ran away from home. When I ran away, I stayed away a few days. I left from Revere. I went all the way over to Tampa. I didn't even know that my family was looking for me. I was scared to call them once I got over there. And once I did call a cousin, he like, hey, everybody looking for you, man. I'm like, what? They don't supposed to know I'm over here. But I was over there. And I was over there a day or two, but they say you got to go back home. And I end up going back home, and I stayed home about 30 days, but then I just told my mom, I'm like, I can't stay in here. And I didn't run away. I just left.
Were both of your parents on drugs?
No.
Just your father?
My father was doing at the time. And it was bad. I mean, like, you know, addiction, you mean well, but your money be going towards the habit. So now you're missing the mortgage, now you're missing the bills, and things starting to get real stank. Your marriage becomes strained. And eventually it would be a cause of my mom and dad getting divorced within about like 2 years after the point I'm talking about me running away.
I recall going to cop drugs with my 2-year-old daughter in the front seat.
Right.
And back then, I don't look at it like, it was like, so? But now I look back at it, and I'm in the middle of the hole. I'm in the worst neighborhood, and here I am copping crack with my daughter in the front seat. Now, she was only 2. She can't remember that.
Right.
But you're already of age. Anything graphic that you can maybe remember?
I would put it to you like this. My dad, there's a lot he didn't do in our presence. But what started to stick out was a lot of things went to start missing around the house. You go to look around, what a stereo? You start looking, so things around the house missing. And my dad, he was respectful in the sense he didn't do drugs in front of me.
Okay.
He didn't take me into the drug holes to get anything. He didn't do that part. But sometimes I'll find his little stash of tools around the house.
Yeah, paraphernalia.
Your paraphernalia. And even before crack, I remember one time I saw a little mirror with
the residue of coke on it.
No, it wasn't residue. It was coke on it. There wasn't no residue. It wasn't any residue. And I was a kid, and I'm here. You know, we do things. So I don't see Scarface and everything. So I tap my finger, and I tap the cocaine, and I taste it. And the sting that hit my tongue at the time, because I didn't know it was like that. And from that point, I said, I'd never put that in my nose, because it was burning hard. And I believe that deterred me away from heavy drugs, right? And also seeing what happened with my father just deterred me from drugs as a whole, because I seen where he was at in life and how it could make you take a tumble. So it kept me away from the drugs myself. Now, I'm not going to say, I know what it's like to smoke weed, you know, go up like Cheech and Chong before school, you know, it's all in the clothes. I've been there. You know, high school, I don't pull up with my crew, and when we get out the car, just a cloud of smoke come out. So I've been there. But I'm thankful that I never progressed on to harder drugs where really substance abuse affected my life.
But there's other issues in your life that did take you to that prison sentence.
Right. So going back to that, I had anger issues when I didn't even realize. See, a dangerous person is a person that's angry and doesn't realize that they're angry.
Right.
And I was that person. And I had things that started to happen in my life as like when I was 17 and my girlfriend was 16, she got pregnant. I got to dial back a little bit. I was in high school. I was a runaway. Almost ended up at alternative school. Messing up in school a little bit. So, you know, I'm missing credits and all. But what I did, I ended up going to night school. I did everything, and I marched with my class on time by the 12th grade. Because my mom asked me one thing. She said, no matter what you do in life, please graduate from high school. And I told my mom I'll make sure I do that. So I did do that part. And how about I managed to get in college? Yeah, Florida A&M.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what I said. Wow. But the problem with that is I was at college rather than being in college. You know, I didn't appreciate or really understand the blessing that was before me at that moment. And my mind was all over the place. But I bring that up because 2 weeks after I was in college, I get a call. And come to find out, my girlfriend back home was pregnant. But she didn't have the child. Her mom made her have an abortion.
Wow, yeah.
But in the course of me hearing that, word was round that she was pregnant from somebody else. So now I become distrustful. Now my mind all over the place. So now you don't know who to trust. You got anger issues. You don't really know. So now what I didn't realize, I really wasn't angry with that. I was hurt.
So yeah, so you are in college and you get that phone call.
Right.
And obviously you hear the story and explain that part.
Well, I get a phone call actually from my mom, and she tell me that my girlfriend said she's pregnant. And I tell my mama, no, she just don't want to lose me. She not pregnant. My mom say, no, her mother took her to the doctor and she is pregnant. What you gonna do? I say, well, let me think about it. And right then, as soon as I got off the phone, I thought about it because my mom always tell me, she said that I didn't have to have you, but I chose life. And I'm glad that I had you. So with that being with my mom, I would never myself ever attempt to make a woman have an abortion.
Right.
Because my mom always say she glad that she had me. And she say she could have always did something else. So in that within myself, my decision was like by default already made because of how I got here. And I went on with life. That situation, it was an open wound. At the time, I didn't realize it hurt me like it did. I just was like, it's just one of those things. So I moved on. And I put it to the side. But what it did, it affected my relationships with girlfriends going forward.
In the future, yeah.
Going forward. Because now I always think about this. Because not only that, with the thing about her being pregnant, I went to hearing stories that she was pregnant from someone else.
Right.
So now the level of distrust going. What I didn't know, her family is mad at me. So now I'm out of contact with her. And I don't even know that her mother forced her to have an abortion. And that's a story in itself because when after she had the abortion, I don't find out that 20 years later that it created a rift between her and her mother, and they didn't talk for 20 years after that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really affected a lot of people in a lot of different ways. So I'm in school, I get a new girlfriend, but I'm running for commitment. Don't really know why, but I just don't want commitment. I end up getting in a relationship and, you know, they from one place, I'm from another, boyfriend, a new boyfriend from somewhere else. And it was just ego. It was just ego, you know, ego, things escalate and really do saying some things to me, but I'm out of Rivera or you don't know who you're dealing with. And I'm on my way to the library, supposed to be going to the library, but I just want to speak my little piece and it don't go that way.
Right.
It don't go that way. It was everything other than. And things was so bad right then. No, and I'm thankful no one died. But people did get hurt, and that was like a hard point for me. But when it happened, I never forget. I see people, it's blood. I'm going down some stairs. I grabbed a gun and I put it to my head. And my mom, the first time I told her this years later, she couldn't believe it. And I don't know what it was. I just went to praying and I just say, I love you, Mom. I love your family and whoever else. And I think I heard a siren and I started running. I took the gun down. And one thing I know, it's hard to kill yourself. But I was to that point considering it, but I couldn't do it. And I ran on.
Now
And
this occurred after you
had
did,
them caught the case. Yeah, did a shooting.
you
Yeah,
did the shooting. Now you're contemplating suicide.
I'm contemplating suicide.
Okay.
Right. I'm contemplating the suicide, but I hear a siren that makes me jump out of it, and I start running. And when I'm running for dear life. It's maybe about 15 or 20 police cars. I could see them all coming my way. I know they gonna get me. All I see is a fence. So I run, and when I dash across the street, I could see all of the police out of my perimeters. I know they gonna get me. I think they gonna shoot me or whatever. I jump the fence, and I go. The police didn't see me. It was dark, it was night, and I just kept going, and I got away, and I turned myself in later. Even when you start to sort things out, when you in denial, it's hard for you to get to your own truth.
So now, after it's all said and done, now you're able to look back.
Right. Well, I just do that out of respect for other people, you know. But for the most part, like I said, I had 2 victims in that right there, and no one died. But
And is this the girlfriend and the boyfriend, or is this
girlfriend and a boyfriend?
Okay,
right. And I'm like, what just happened in here? You know, what just happened in here? Because now all I see is like people laid down. I actually think they did. So I'm running, but I'm thankful no one died. Right.
You're thankful no one died, and you still end up with 2 life sentences or 3 life sentences.
2 life sentences and 15.
With 15.
Yeah.
You know, and you most of the time when we see guys in prison with those type of sentences, they're usually hopeless when they get those life sentences. They don't believe that they'll ever get out.
Right.
That they'll ever come to the, and it's because of they noticed that during the time of their incarceration, they started seeing guys missing with those life sentences, passing away in prison. Did you think like that?
I always thought that I would go home one day. I didn't know how. Thankfully for me, I won an appeal early. I won on a 3.800 actually early in my incarceration.
What's a 3.800?
That's a post conviction motion where you put in, and the judge, they granted it. They reduced my sentence. They changed 1 life sentence to 40 years, changed another life sentence to 12 years, and left the 15 the same. But what they did, they ran my 12 and 15-year sentence concurrent, but they ran the 15 after the 40. So I actually ended up with a 55-year sentence with a 6 mandatory under the old system in Florida.
And how much time had you done before you had the sentence mitigated?
Oh, I was in my first couple years.
Oh, okay.
I was early,
Early, yeah.
Yeah, very early.
Let me take this opportunity, if you just tuned in. This is Death or Prison, brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. Bringing hope and encouragement.
Yes.
I know if we have someone in the audience or listening that maybe have a relative or someone incarcerated with a life sentence. Obviously, my brother here, Oswald Newbold, was sentenced to a life in prison. But by God's mercy and grace, we have him here today. And so to continue, you put in that motion, and therefore you were able to reduce your sentence to, what, 55?
Right, but you got to remember, when I went in, I was 19 years old when I got in trouble. So I'm young. So I'm young to life. I'm young, new to the system because I haven't been out. So I'm on a learning curve with everything.
Wow.
Right? One thing, God was with me even when I didn't realize it at the time.
That's right.
One. But the other side, too, I was angry. And when I got the life sentence and when I got a reduction to the 55, I was still angry. So I really walked around with a chip on my shoulder. I didn't bother anybody, but you kind of could tell I was a guy that had a lot on his mind. Even when you think you're doing self-inventories, because I had classes, you think you're doing self-inventories, you get into the bottom, you really not getting to the bottom. You scratching the surface with your so-called change and growing and stuff. You're just scratching the surface.
Right.
And one thing that powerful that happened with me at the time, my ex-girlfriend, the same one I went to prison for, she came to prison to see me. Yeah. Yeah. She came to see me, right.
Yeah.
Her mother got mad about that one. But even with that, I learned something that the power of it I didn't understand in there, but the power of forgiveness was there. You know, because had it been the other way around, could I have forgiven her like that? Would I took the same steps that she took? So in a lot of ways, she has become like my mentor in ways without her even trying to mentor me. With understanding the power of forgiveness and moving on and doing the right thing. When I went in, it was a little tough back then. So, you know, I had my shanks in my mattress. I mean, I had one on me. I had one in the dirt by the rec field. It was like that because I fell in 1991.
You say the shank.
Yeah, a poker, yeah.
A poker, a shift, a knife.
Yeah, homemade knife.
What people don't understand, and I want you to realize, is that you have to look at out of the box and see Oswald Newbold. He's a college student. Who would ever think that in a moment of a snap of a finger, life can change?
Yeah.
And see, that's why we sometimes live without, you know, we take all these risks and don't understand the consequences thereof.
So I want to say something here. You say that never been in trouble before, right? Never committed a crime. That's what you said, never committed a crime.
Criminal crime.
I got to strain you on that.
Yeah.
See, some of the stuff that happened to me was karma because I committed a bunch of crimes. But I never got caught.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So when I was that 15-year runaway, the very thing that I saw toward my household, I became one of the perpetuators of, I became a drug dealer. I went to selling crack.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I know what it's like. Not only that, I used to sell dope. I toted a gun. So I know what it's like to be out there. So really, some of that stuff was karma coming back on me because I got away with. So yeah,
I didn't know your story.
Yeah,
okay.
So I got away with a lot. And Elmo, you could speak to that. You know, karma. We get away with a lot, and all of a sudden I get hit. I feel I don't deserve it, but I'm not thinking about all the stuff I got away with over time.
Right. One thing that I really love what you said about the self-evaluation,
Inventory.
where you're thinking your self-inventory, and to the point to where you're thinking that yes, I found all my little niches and everything that I've hidden, the little dirty parts of me, and I clean those things up. When you realize that now that these things are still there. You're trying to make the conversion in your life, and then something happens that you know nothing about, and that's forgiveness.
Right.
And it comes in the form of visitation against a person that you've harmed.
Right.
Tell us about that, how that motivated you to start really do true evaluation about yourself and then to get involved in service.
Actually, I didn't at that moment because I'm still young, but that would be a powerful point. It meant something to me then, but it started to take greater root as I got older and started to understand life a little more going forward. But I always remembered that I'm fighting this sentence too. When I was in prison, like fighting the sentence was everything. I'm trying to get this 55 off of me. So all the other stuff, I really wasn't thinking about it too much. I'm trying to figure out how to get this off of me. But when I'm at Belglade, they got the little AM station that was behind us, little Sugar 900 back then, and it's a preacher on. I always listen to gospel on Sunday morning. I listen to the sermons, and it was a preacher on there say, some of y'all mad at the world, but you don't even know why you mad. You mad at a parent, and you can't even stand that parent, but you think you look good, but the looks that you got from is the very parent you can't stand. Some of you think you smart, but the person you got the smarts from is the parent you can't stand. It's just, and so they went to talking. So I went to thinking about things. And I felt that, okay, I'm a smart guy, but I got that from my dad. And what I didn't mention to y'all, my dad and I relationship became strained during his time of addiction. I mean, to the point where we didn't talk. I didn't even want to hear anything about him. Not by his choice, but by my choice. And as I got old, I started to realize some of the things wasn't even his fault. You know, he was a product of what he was, an only child. And they always saved him. Wouldn't let him get a bump or bruise or anything. And as I got older, I realized that I had to start forgiving my dad. You know, he's human. You know, look at me. I'm in prison. Who would have thought, even the morning I woke up and got in trouble, who would have thought I would have ended up in this position on that same day?
Right.
Even an hour or 2 hours before it happened, I would have never knew I was going to be in that position. So I said, you got to learn to forgive people and let go. But I had to ask myself, why are you mad at him? And that's when I realized I wasn't mad. I was hurt because I hated to see him fall how he did. But I never emotionally dealt with it. But when I realized, man, you weren't really mad. You were just hurt, and you didn't like seeing your daddy take a. I'm the second, so we got the same name. Right. So once I started to do that, I started to see life differently, and just my spiritual side just started to open up. One thing about it, no matter what I was going through, no matter how much I did go to church, didn't go to church, read my Bible, didn't read my Bible, I always believed in a higher power. Always.
All right. Well, we've come to the end of our podcast. It's been an honor and a pleasure. I'm glad you joined us. Join us again next week. From death or prison, we like to choose
life.
Choose life. Choose life. Till next time.
If you or your family would like to connect to a welcoming mentoring church, Death or Prison is partnered with Alpha USA. What you do is simply click the podcast button. It may take a second to load. And you fill in your name, email address, phone number, city, state, zip, and a brief message. We want to hear from you.
Looking for a welcoming church? Connect at leanonmeusa.org. Death or Prison is a production of leanonmeusa.org. Copyright 2020. Death or Prison is offered for information only and is not intended as legal advice. Thank you for listening.